Evening, this is the Town of Fairfield Conservation Commission for August 16th, 2023. Calling the meeting to order, and I'm appointing Ted as an alternate. And Ted's here, and Pete's here, Jay, myself, and Jerry, and I think I saw Amanda online, so Amanda's here as well.
That just means she doesn't have a WebEx account signed in.
Yeah, that's okay. So that's good. All right. Actually, Amanda's a alternate. We'll appoint the full member for tonight to participate, and we're good. All right. We have approval of the draft meeting minutes, Conservation Commission meeting minute of June 21st, 2023. Do any commissioners have any questions or corrections or any issues with the minutes?
Concourse noted that he would like to be noted as present at the meeting. His name was not listed in there.
Who was?
Concourse.
Oh, okay, yes, sure. If we can add that, that would be great. Okay. Maybe a motion to approve with the correction?
Make a motion, I'm abstaining.
You're abstaining. Okay,
I move we approve with the correction.
with the correction, and Pete seconds. All in favor, aye, and one abstention by Jerry. Okay, all right. All right, we have new business. Number one, item 2318 Mill Plain Road, to discuss proposed developments and in lieu of.
Can I speak to that, Mr. Chair?
Sure. Come on up. We have a new system, so I think it just takes our voice anywhere, so
Okay.
wherever you're comfortable. Yes. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, my name's Bill Fitzpatrick. I'm an attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Russo and Rizzio. Here tonight representing the applicant, Sand Dollar Development LLC, for a 10-lot subdivision, 2318 Mill Plain Road. Property contains 3.72 acres, includes the Ross family homestead, located at the southeasterly corner, the intersection of Stilson and Mill Plain Road. The property has been the subject of several subdivisions in the past. This proposal keeps the family homestead intact and subdivides the remainder of the property in 9 lots. The subdivision regs call for the dedication of 10% of the land as open space, or the option of a fee in lieu equal to 10% of the pre-subdivision value of the land. Whereas here, the proposal is more than 5 lots. Originally, the client planned on a 10% open space dedication. That's the plan that you have seen. But the open space plan as submitted results in a somewhat limited open space property. Property is relatively steep, relatively small, and does not connect to any other open space. These standalone open space parcels, in my experience, have become less than ideal. Audubon and Aspetuck in particular will not even accept them in many cases. So my client is proposing instead to pay the fee in lieu, estimate to be $92,000 plus. By virtue of us paying the fee in lieu, there is no change in the number of lots. There will still be 9 lots. I think that the open space fee of $92,000 plus is more valuable to the town in this relatively small, isolated parcel. The Land Acquisition Committee has reviewed this, recommends acceptance of the fee in lieu, and I'm requesting that your commission do the same.
The Land Acquisition Committee did definitely review this,
They did.
because we have another one come back before us tonight where they second guess us because we and now they want the parcel. I want to make sure that absolutely clear that.
I will give you a piece of paper to that.
That's all right. I trust you, Bill, but I just want, it kind of, I don't understand the logic of one versus the other. I'm just trying to decipher that.
It was the original? Did I mark that out correctly?
That's correct.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, absolutely. Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Bill. At last night's Land Acquisition Commission meeting, they voted unanimously to approve the request for a fee in lieu of funds over the land.
Submitting this for the
And that's
record.
from Tim, and I'd like to submit that.
Yes, okay, we'll grab this. Yeah.
I would like to note too, in your folders, Attorney Fitzpatrick had sent plans showing what it would look like with the 10 lots and no open space. It doesn't show, they don't gain any extra
Yeah.
lots with it. So in your, I only printed out one copy because it had been a big set of plans. So
Yeah.
that is in there if you wanted to see what that
So
proposal.
I marked up that, just
Yep.
see it, I mean,
Um,
Steve, relatively,
I'd also like to point out that Commissioner Deputy Bowen is here with us now. All right, I'll open it up to comments, questions.
My personal feeling on these small pocket open space parcels, that I agree with Attorney Fitzpatrick, that it's not maintained. They derelict spaces, no one's looking after them. If you get full of invasive species, they, people dumping them. So you get a lot of value from having these little small pieces, but I think that $92,000 for an acquisition of another parcel makes a lot of sense. But I do, again, I'll go back to, and I don't know what the explanation is, why that land acquisition committee is okay with us not doing it here and not on the other one. I guess we'll talk.
Yeah, we'll talk about
that
the land.
later.
So
But,
this
my
one.
feeling is that we take the fee and not parcel.
I would have to say that one of the things that the Land Acquisition Committee said that really resonated with me is that once it's gone, we're coming back. So if we take the fee instead of the open space, that open space is never gonna be recovered. And I'd like to see some sort of a mechanism where you allow for maintenance of the open space as part of the homeowners association, maybe a trust to maintain the open space, to take care of invasive species that might, populate the area, some way of creating an open space and maintaining it, because maintaining is the huge issue.
Is there an HOA with this?
No HOA here.
there is not.
Developer set up a trust.
I mean, certainly that could be the case, but I don't think it warrants it under these set of circumstances.
Might just, I've done this for 40 years. I've been involved in a lot of these and I've seen, in the past, there's been a lot of these set aside with subdivisions in perpetuity. And if you go look at them in perpetuity, they're just abandoned. Nobody's taking care of them. They're really become refuges for all these invasives to congregate and jump out all over the place. That's just my experience. The quarter acre, no one's gonna deal with it. We have the other one on what was done Southport with, there was that little open space set aside and no one can agree on how to manage it or even take care of it. And it's become a can of worms. So at least if it's in a simple ownership, people tend to take care of their own land. You can always do, if you want to have some type of area that's we call conservation on a parcel that you set aside and say you can't take trees down or something, that's always an alternative, I guess, that planning and zoning can consider, but, I think it would be part of, somebody has ownership of it or just.
So that parcel that right now indicated as open space on the map, that would be still the name of the.
Other proposal. We're gonna get rid of that and distribute the land to the blast.
Oh, it would be a redistribution.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
No,
Yeah, that.
there are no additional lots, they're just a little bit bigger lots,
Bigger, yeah, okay, good.
It would be a little bit of tax burden. The land.
a little bit of tax on it.
You.
I assume if the slopes are steep, that people probably won't try to cut the trees down and maintain it as lawn if it's. That, it'd be
Clear
somewhat de
cutting.
facto as an open space and people tend to, if they start to get too overgrown, they go in there and find. Open space parcel, they're either afraid to or they don't want to spend the effort.
In your experience, that's a better solution.
You know, if it was a vernal pool area and there were, you know, it's a real good resource, then I would say, yeah, let's save it, but I know it's gonna happen. It's just gonna, you know, everybody's gonna take their lawn waste and there's gonna be piles of lawn waste around it. There's gonna be, you know,
It seems to be pretty
all
steep
kinds of
there
stuff
too.
in there and
Very steep and no wetlands. I have a review of it that Ed Jones did in January of 2016 for a very similar proposal of this property. This parcel is in the Mill River watershed. No inland wetlands or watercourses are located on or proximate to the property. The proposed open space frontage on Stilson Road is across the street from Springer Glen open space area. However, the proposal does not provide connectivity to any other open space area. When considering the tortuous open space lot lines and steep slopes that would have to be traversed to access it, it would not be easily accessible. As offered, the open space set aside would not serve the public in any significant way. He was recommending, as I am here, a fee in lieu.
Would you maybe send a copy of that to them?
Of this one, I will give you mine. I don't know whether I have others of this.
Oh, it's.
All right, well, we'll put it in.
Actually, you read it a lot.
Similar,
Wow, it's,
similar open space subdivision, similar subdivision application of the Ross property.
no Saskatchewan Association or anything else jumping in on this one. Okay, I'd be prepared to make the motion if.
Okay, well, any commissioners, any other questions or comments? Amanda, can you hear us? You're online?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we're good. Okay, great.
Thank you.
So then, yeah, if you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the fee in lieu of the open space parcel on subdivision of 2318 Mill Bay Road, Fairfield, Connecticut.
Okay. Any second to that? Very second. Any further discussion on that? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Cedric, nay. Nay, okay. We have one nay. And Amanda said aye. Okay,
Thank you very much.
very good. Thank you, sir. Item number 2 on the new business. Yeah. Boydens Hill Open Space. Post Fairfield Ludlow High School cross country meet on October 3rd, 2023. Hello.
It's me.
That's you. Hi, Jean. Come on up here if you wouldn't mind and give us your name.
I'm Kelly Renna. So I'm the head cross-country coach. I know you. I also work at Roger Ludlow Middle School. So we, for the last couple of years, have known we're going to need to relocate our course because our campus doesn't have a great layout for a cross-country course. And the middle school field's going to be turfed, and that's going to remove a huge portion of our course as well. So we started exploring other options in town. Fairfield Ward's in a similar situation where their campus isn't great either. So we convinced our league to kind of merge our meet together so that's the 2 Fairfield schools attending this meet. And we were hoping to use Hoydens Hill open space. And I did email a proposed map to Tom Course. He said
Everybody.
perfect. So we run junior varsity races and then varsity races. The junior varsity race, what I ended up doing, I went there multiple times to measure out different loops. I did get chased by a coyote one time.
Oh my
It was quite an adventure. I thought it was a dog at first. Like, oh, whose dog is it? That's not a dog. He was barking at me when I was on the driving range. So it's been an adventure, to say the least. We were kind of on and off with whether or not we incorporate that woods loop. And I think to keep things simple for year 1 in trying this, we stuck to kind of the grass grid system, the driving range, and then using like that barn trail. Does everyone know what I'm talking about? Okay, good. So ultimately the junior varsity race would start and finish on the driving range and do 1 single loop that's mapped out. The varsity would just repeat that same loop twice. So it's pretty simple. We did shift because originally we were supposed to host some monster sized teams. And so I was able to convince the league to swap out. So we have 1 large school, the Fairfield schools, which are kind of medium size usually, and 1 small school instead. Because I was worried too about buses. So the Fairfield schools, our buses don't need to stay. They can drop us off and then come back and pick up. So that's nice. They don't have to park. Trumbull and McMahon, will likely need parking. I'm not sure how many buses. My guess is Trumbull will have 2 and McMahon probably 1, maybe 2. There is a utility lot, that's the golf courses right across the way. I don't know how to get permission to use that, but that was one thought. Maybe buses can go there. And then we house parent parking within the driving range lot. There's like a dirt lot over by the softball field. I've seen at softball games them use one side of street parking, but I think if we direct traffic, we can fit a fair number of cars in there, especially if we parallel on one side as well. I asked how many people I expect. I really don't know. I mean, it's during the work week. It's at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday. Likely we'll have lots of Fairfield spectators. Could have some Trumbull, you know, because it's close by. It's hard to predict how many people will come. But I think we could manage and figure it out if, you know, we're allowed to use all those avenues for parking.
So you want to park at the golf course, the buses?
I'm hoping
You should speak to Anthony Calabrese and park.
Yeah, the back.
Yeah, that's
that
honestly,
utility lot.
Yeah.
any of the lots really. I mean, a weekday at 4 o'clock in October, there's never be any on the golf course.
Yeah.
So I would just talk to Anthony at Parks and Rec and sure help you out.
At Parks and Rec, okay. Or I didn't know if they could even just circle to the main lot too and use the space in there. Okay, so Anthony at Parks and Rec. All right, so I'll reach out to him. Driving range, I didn't know. Is that permission from you or is that from someone else? Because we.
Right.
That's Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec too, okay.
Tony, the only problem I foresee is people walking their dogs. So if maybe we could, do we have the ability to close?
You do, because
Space?
when I was coaching middle school, Ed Jones helped me close Lake Mohegan.
Okay.
Middle school meet 2 years in a row.
Was it a couple of hours before?
Commission
Some notice.
the open
Yeah.
space.
We'll do a
This commission and not close and
notice.
people came and helped us, which was awesome. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Hey, this will be closed from these hours. Have them go out and put it there and then close it.
Yeah.
So
I think they posted when we did they posted signs and then they might have sent a police officer and he just made sure, no incoming cars.
we
came
do
in that
like
were-
some sort of rough checks on cars, anything?
Oh gosh, I don't even
I'll tell you, talking about dogs, I mean, years ago when they had the first softball, a lot of, it was horrible. Because the cars were parked on Hoyden's Lane.
Yeah.
That is not suitable for two-way traffic and it was really bad. And so they let everybody come into Hoyden's Hill itself and park all over the place.
Yeah.
So you're gonna need,
This is the first time this is happening, right?
Yeah.
So it might be another thing, just a little bit more work for you is also maybe reach out to the police and see if they can have a police officer there, explain to them this is the first time, we won't
Yeah.
know, we might need your help. And if it's nothing, then great, we know what to expect maybe next year.
My hope is if we could he could direct them where to park,
Yeah.
because you actually can maximize, you know, if you have some directing, you're gonna go here on the grass, here on that, there's a lot of space you can use within there. Street parking, I don't live actually too far from here. I think if you have one side, the side of the golf course, because there is a little grass, people can tuck in. If you have people parking on both sides, though, that's a problem because it's too narrow.
I was referring to parking on one side and it's tough.
What about just park on the golf course?
That's another option if Smith Richardson would allow.
Yeah.
It would be a walk.
There is, but they are runners.
But the bus is in the plant lot for the, I think makes a lot of sense. It's right there and it's right.
It's right across the street.
And Tony's new wife is a teacher at Dwight.
Oh, okay.
Should be something.
If they volunteer to remove invasives at Hoyden's Hill. and Wax the trucks. I mean, they do use the lot.
Amanda, do you have any
to work
questions?
to make sure that
When I make sure you're there.
that lot, the service lot, they might need to clear it a little.
Have to have-
Some room for you.
Move the cars to the other, like, I think we just need the back side of the building. If they could just,
We have equipment there, so.
yeah, there's space though. I run around there all the time. There's room.
So are we asking, just is this a compatible activity or are we being asked to do some of the logistics of it?
Well, I think we would put the notice up on the board and then, especially if you've got a police officer, but we can
Yeah.
put up a sign the day of that says this.
But that's not something-
Is it 2 or whatever?
Yeah.
We want to make sure everybody has enough time to get out.
I would want the notice to be done by our group.
And then I would also check with the police department to see that they rarely do target practice over there, but just to make sure.
They do. It's usually in the morning.
September.
Sometimes I run through there and I'm like, there are bullets. It's usually early.
Yeah.
So we live a mile from there, so I'm very familiar with the area.
But Dabney, is that space reserved for them? I mean, I was gonna ask just what you did. Who controls the
The
shooting
police-
range? I
The
mean,
police department does.
So,
permission.
Right.
Well, right, September though.
It's only if they are doing.
Okay, yeah, I'm not assuming they would be there. I'm just wondering if someone needs to.
Yeah, and really they just cut off at the entrance there and you can go right up to the entrance. You just can't go in. when they're
They barricade. So if we use the woods, that would be an issue because they'd have to run through the
Right.
driving range. So I just kept all of that out of it. Although we don't want open fire, we have a bunch of athletes, but they do that in the morning now, just.
You know,
So
Tom,
obviously though, this is a coordinated effort between the schools, the police department, the conservation department and Parks and Rec.
Yes.
and what about Tom's mowing schedule? I'm saying you'd obviously want it to be mowed.
Yes.
I mean, it's night, it's easier to run
Keep up with it. But like
another schedule. That's a,
the,
But the paths,
the paths are always.
I'm just wondering that it would be hopefully recently done.
He is aware of it and would make sure that it wasn't.
I think they keep up with it pretty well too, because people walk there all the time and I do run there every week. I've never had like an issue of it being
They're
overgrown.
doing a lot of good work.
Yeah.
All over that hole, a lot, being a lot of it. in open space.
I'll make a motion to approve and a motion to close the open space for what's that day?
yeah,
And for
that
our-
afternoon.
yeah,
that starting at 12 o'clock and for our department to post notices.
A second.
okay. How about the police part? Will that just be leaving it upon the applicant to do it?
Yeah, I would, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I let that, please, yeah, make
Okay.
that separate because it's gonna have to get Parks and Rec.
Mr. Chairman, I know there's
Yes.
a motion on the table. I did have a question. I had my hand up. Maybe that's
Oh,
not.
sorry, I see it.
no,
Just
that's okay.
speak in. Yeah, just go ahead. What's up?
Your hand is up.
Thank you. I was just curious if you've thought through utilizing one of the Sacred Heart University campuses as well, or instead the old GE space, whether that logistically would, I know that there are after school golf lessons on the driving range and that type of thing, and maybe you've mooted all of that through with Parks and Rec, but just flagging that, I'm sure you've thought through it.
So Sacred Heart.
She was just suggesting use Sacred Heart instead of Hoyt's Hill where there might be other activities.
So where's Sacred Heart? I'm just
The campus.
I think the fifth,
Upper row.
and that was it.
running through there.
Six.
Trails there.
Matt, are there trails established on the campus?
I'm not sure. They have a cross-country team. I just was looking well, and I know the former
I
GE.
ran for them.
Oh, great. So maybe you know where they ran, but the
We
former GE
didn't have a
campus
course.
that's now, that's
So
the
Amanda,
former
there was-
GE campus that's now Sacred Heart University did have trails on it.
Lake.
I'm not
Lake
opposed, I'm
Mohegan
just
trails.
flagging through because it doesn't seem like the Parks and Rec.
Yes, because when I ran for Sacred Heart, we would access by by GE.
And then
It
go in.
connects me to Lake Megan. Those trails are hazardous, I'd say, for running. They're very rooty, very rocky. When I did the middle school meet, I kept it very concentrated and it was a much shorter race, so I was able to manage it. But even then, I was nervous using them.
Tell you, there was a lot of conflict those days between the team and users at the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Years ago.
Not be there. Yeah, it was, so I'd say that's a much higher usable space as well, just by, I think, the community where Gordon's Hill, you live like a couple of people walking in there at a time. It's not as busy.
Well, maybe Amanda's mentioning, somewhere on the campus itself. That's private property, so
Yeah,
that's different.
that would be.
It would be the university and then insurance gets tricky with that. Like they wouldn't let us have a track event there. I think that gets a little more challenging. And I also think it would be a road race then, like our whole purpose is we're trying to make it true cross country. With Gordon's Hill definitely offers that.
Okay.
Right in the open space next to GE, they really haven't done much to develop.
I gotta say, I love the idea of kids having the opportunity to visit different open spaces in Fairfield, because I
Yeah.
feel like Warden's Hill in particular, which I go to a lot as well. People don't know it's there,
Yeah.
and it's really nice open space.
Yeah, we practice there. Some, like sometimes I'll bring a group over and the parents are just like, I didn't even know this existed, and they'll walk
Maybe
through.
they come back
Yeah.
another time.
Well, I'm glad to hear that they at least initially would stay away from the wooded part.
Yeah,
Might be wear and tear.
I mean, I feel like the wooded part has improved. They at least like kind of stared out one side, so I would have had them run up that way rather than down. And then they did add like gravel on the down, so I was like, it could potentially work, but just with the first run through, I'd rather keep it really simple.
It's the shooting range.
Yeah.
Any other comments, commissioners?
I do have one other question. So we did propose a Tuesday, October 3rd. Would there be a way to shift it to Monday, October 2nd, but keep our rain date Wednesday, the 4th?
I don't think that's an issue. Just
Okay.
whatever the dates are.
Yeah.
Obviously, let
Yeah.
our folks know so that they can put the notice
Let
up.
Tom
And
know.
just let,
Okay,
yeah,
'cause-
and talk to Tony Calabrese
Okay,
about
yeah.
which dates, because there might be other stuff going on.
Okay,
Yeah, that would be
perfect.
the only issue.
Perfect. So I'll talk to him first. We're trying to get a timing company and much less expensive company available Monday than Tuesday. So my AD was like, oh, we can move it. See if we can.
All right, so the motion is on the table. It's been seconded. Any further comments by the commissioners?
Who seconded it?
Who's seconded?
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you.
I think you're in favor.
Park and rec.
Your camera's not on.
Yeah,
The open spaces used more often.
and they're in love it. And both Fairfield teams are gonna be part of it, which is cool.
And we are accepting volunteers for weeding if you want.
Are we muting her or is that on her own?
Reading there.
She's
Who's able to unmute her?
like the wicked
Okay,
haunted forest from all invasives.
I'll just say she abstained. How's that? Okay, if she were to come back,
Still there.
What's the signal?
yeah,
Can
we,
you hear us? Okay.
Not sure, I don't think she is.
I don't know.
Maybe she ran to the bathroom.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you.
So much. Thank you. Thanks so much.
See you. Bye.
All right, next is item number 3.
When, Mr. Chairman, when the speaker is speaking at the same time as a commissioner, it just fuzzes out and I'm not able to hear anything. So if there was something directed to me, I apologize.
Oh, okay. We had a vote. How would you vote on that?
I'll abstain. I'll make it easy.
Okay. All right. Number 3, 250, 290, and 420 Sturgis Highway. Dam repair work within a conservation easement. Council, good evening. Please state your name and what we're doing. That'd be great.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, staff. My name is Joel Green. I practice law in Bridgeport, Law Offices of Green and Gross. My pleasure to observe supporting this evening on behalf of the owners of 250, 290, and 20 Sturgis Highway. Need to know the names of the owners. But that would-
Sure, might as well, just for the record, that would be,
The Sturgis Highway are Polly and John Tucker. 90 is Mary Jane and Jim Berrien. And 420 is Chris Franz and Tina Weymouth. And with me tonight is Alan Shepard of NOK Engineers Surveyors. Welcome. We're here before you this evening with respect to the repair and maintenance of the dam, Thanks Pond Dam, which 2 years ago failed during Irene. And over the 2-year period, we have gone to the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection to review the proposed repair and maintenance of the dam. And specifically, we had asked the SDEEP to reclassify the dam to a AA, Class AA dam, which which is a negligible hazard potential dam. I don't know if the letter from.
It's in their folders.
Okay, good. So you have the letter from Deep. And basically, as you saw in the letter from Deep dated June 15th, Deep stated that due to the fact the dam is in poor condition, Deep Dam Safety Program strongly recommends that you as the dam owners complete all the work stated by your consulting engineer in a report that has been submitted by Alan and NOK, and that is summarized in the plan that you received. And so it was Deep's recommendation that we proceed with that work. And so what we're here before you this evening on is, as you're aware from the materials, there's a conservation easement that encumbers a portion of 290 Sturgis Highway. And as part of the dam repair work, we are going to need to temporarily encroach into the conservation easement area. And with that, I can turn it over to Alan to describe the nature of the work that we are proposing.
Yes, sir.
As Joel said, I'm Alan Shepard. And we looked at the dam. It's a rubble dam, low-lying rubble dam. The highest point is like 5 feet high. A lot of it is earthen burn. It's historic because it was an ice dam in the old days. And it also served some other functions when they did pasteurization of milk. They had one of the first pasteurization stations. So it has some, to old engineers like me, it has some history that I like. So to get to the dam, the parent property has lawn area. They also have a slope going to the old pond that's covered in this conservation easement. So most of this to get in, the closest spot is to go through the lawn and get the materials we need to the back, store it. Now the materials that we'll have, the riprap, capping blocks, concrete, that's about 1,600 feet of concrete. So what I'm figuring is to cut through the ridge line up where the pool is, and that would be where we would bring in a concrete truck, a pumper truck to unload. Along the area of the pond that is now lowered, we would bring a skid steer in and a small excavator, placing materials. So it would be low impact in the conservation area. And then we just withdraw that when we're done. So any matting we do or anything like that would be withdrawn back and come back out. So, it's a couple of weeks worth of work. We could do it in stabilized. But it is in the conservation area. So that's why we're here.
Wetland permits?
We're gonna have to go to wetlands after we're through.
Yeah, we just needed to do this first.
We'll get another shot at it.
Yeah, sure. And the state, we went through the state, we took, months or a year, go to different departments of the state to get down, and they said, we're done with you guys, go local. So it's to the different families involved. It's been a long haul to get to here, and that's the way we should go. We did a higher authority back down, so I have no problem with that, but that's just.
So the conservation easement language that goes with the process, it's a standard conservation easement.
I have a copy and I know you probably received it, but basically it's part that's
Say maintenance in there anywhere?
is that
Yeah, that's usually does. I just,
It also says
we put it in our package.
that natural resource enhancement purposes. So
Right.
that
That was the next question I had. Is there any invasives in this area that you're gonna be conservation area?
Things are starting to grow up now because it's been, fairly dry for 2 years. So we're starting to get some invasives, but I figure once we flood, the creek won't die out.
How about in the area that you're accessing over?
No, it's mostly landscape. They had it landscaped. So we'll go right,
If there's an opportunity to do any enhancement in there as part of the
it's pretty landscape right now. So they keep it pretty well maintained. And we'd be at the base pond, right where pond.
So honestly, when we come back in for the wetland permit, maybe that's a topic.
Yeah, maybe you could look at that. I was just thinking if there's, if we're gonna make some disturbances, we can make things better.
Sure.
Always think.
Sure.
Back to
Sure. And the language in the easement precludes the variance from excavating, filling, gardening, grading, mowing, removing vegetation from or constructing buildings for improvements in the easement area. And this is kind of interesting because mostly all we're doing is traveling over it, equipment and some material. There is, as Alan said, the plan shows just a minor area of good work would be what, Alan, in this area?
Oh, there's, I want to put a liner in front of the dam because it was a rubble dam. So we have about 20 feet inside the conservation area. It's take off the muck that's there now, put it down a liner, put it back on.
So it was the pond's been there for 200 years or at least documented over 150 years. And it's kind of earlier in the season when it was dry, it was a pretty bad looking site. When the rain, obviously with the heavy rain, it looked a little better, but we're looking forward to restoring it to its historic condition.
So for tonight's purposes, we're just dealing with the conservation easement, and you're gonna come in front of us sometime in the near future. And then we can talk about all the details. Maybe it's a good time for you to also maybe, put a worm in your finds here that there might be enhancements to the property, something like that. Which, in the spirit of what it is, it's a conservation easement. It's become lawn. I'm sure it's great either, so we really like that kind of stuff. So, all right.
So you're just looking for a sense of the board that this activity is covered by the conservation easement.
So what it says in the easement is that you can't do any of this work without
Allowing them to do it. So it would be, whatever this says, it's somebody will do a motion that says the work as it is brought in front of us and just as testified to.
It says we won't do
Yes.
activities again without the approval.
Right, so you need us to do it.
I'm gonna make a motion. I'll
That'd be great.
make a motion to approve the proposed activity in accordance with conservation easement that was set forth when was this set forth? A long time ago. 2002.
Right.
I'll second.
And a seconds.
Pursuant to review by the inland wetlands.
Right. Any further comments by any? All right, all in favor? Aye. Amanda?
Yes, sir. Aye.
Aye, okay, we're all
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Yes.
We'll see you in September.
Do anything for the talking.
Wrong.
Throw that out.
Nice.
So next one is the Youth Conservation Award for discussion. I know this was, Rick was the one who brought it up, and he has this little letter. You guys have seen it. If you haven't read it, we'll keep this letter as part of the record, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if you wanted to table that until Rick is
Want
here.
to do that? Maybe that'd be better, yeah. You guys, you read it, but I'd like Rick to do it. It was really. seemed to be-
It was his idea.
Great idea.
Yeah, and I like it. It's a great idea. Yeah, we're just gonna table this to the next meeting. Okay? And this one is now number 5, Lake Mohegan, Cascades, collaboration with the police department and steps of enforcement due to increased violation of vandalism. I'm sure you've all seen the emails back and forth, weeks back. Sarah, do you want to say something?
Yeah, so they've stepped up, surveillance and police enforcement there probably since the end of September. Tom Course spoke with the police department and they said in the period between July 1st and August 14th, they did 56 location checks and had 7 infractions for littering, drinking and swimming, and they have not had any new damage to the fence since they have stepped this up.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's kids out, not just kids. There's been families, there's been all sorts of people there going in through the cascades.
Swimming in the Cascades.
Yes,
Yeah.
Dangerous.
which is very dangerous, yeah.
I walked by him and said, look out for the leeches.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but worth a shot.
Right, any
Guy with the salt shotgun.
Okay, any further issues or questions or comments about them? Okay. Now we'll go to Roman numeral 5, old business. Number 1, Salvatore Vassallo, Master Naturalist Program at Springer Glen. That's last time. Sure.
So on August 31st, Tim Bishop and Tom Course will be meeting with him to do a trail walk and I guess figure out where the invasives will be removed. And then the crew should be working with him starting September 1st. Planning to remove the barberry.
Yes. Great. Other questions or comments, commissioners? Nope. Okay, we'll move on to number 2, old business. It's a Finger or Bidger? Finger Woods, Department Surveillance and Water Quality Sampling and Laboratory Results pending related to illegal assault and such. So the crew, if you remember from a few meetings ago, they had found someone like withdrawing water, possibly dumping water into the water course there. So they've been checking it out to see if that's been happening. They've taken some water samples to see if there was anything abnormal with that, everything. I don't have a copy of the results, but Tom, of course, said that everything was found to test normal. I think in terms of like nitrates, phosphorus, salinity, dissolved oxygen. I think they were testing for pesticides. There were some levels of everything in there, but not enough to meet a certain threshold. But they haven't found any more trucks taking water out of the stream. So they're going to continue to keep an eye on that. That's good. Commissioners, any further questions?
I just want to comment that
Yeah.
this gets back to the conversation that we've been having intermittently throughout the past year about whether or not there's a vehicle in which to make the contractors responsible for infractions and for making sure that they and their employees are not are obeying the law and obeying our
Using the open-
regulations and not abusing the open spaces, and the natural resources and whether that's applying, the illegal pesticides or applying pesticides in illegal areas or taking water out of water courses or as we found a few months ago, disturbing wetlands when they know it's wetlands, even though their clients may not. So I think that's something we should continue to.
But we need an ordinance. So we'll need to make a presentation before the legislative committee. So, I'd like to see that on the agenda for the next IW.
Yeah, that would be great.
So we could actually get started. I know Tim's interested,
Yeah, I would.
but it's a formal process we need to go through. So
You need to make it.
I'd like to get started.
So we'll have more discussions with Tim and see which way we go. Okay. All right. Any other comments? All right, got it. Nope. Number 3 is 845 Mill Hill Terrace, request by Planning Commission to revisit and discuss decision for proposed development and in lieu of. So kind of goes in with our first applicant.
Right.
Presentation was that we did this last time. And it was a presentation. We had comments, we talked about it, and we came up with our decision to whatever use the zoning does with it, but that's our recommendation, that they take the fee in lieu of. And I think it goes to what, I think Ted said it earlier, some of this is just not usable. Can access it, but it is also space that's getting lost. So where's the balance? And, you know,
And if it's not usable now, it may be usable at some point in the future. There may be some way of making it usable based on priorities of the, one of the things that I see happening is the value of open space is increasing continually because there's less and less of it in town. And this is going to become a bigger and bigger issue because we don't value what's in the open space to the effect of what it means to the community. I guess what's the commercial value, not the,
I just
what
want,
does it mean to the community though, if like Commissioner Fain said that after time, it's an open space, it's tucked in the back of a piece of property, nobody has access to it, and all of a sudden it just becomes,
those are valid points. And my thinking is that we need to think of some way of minimizing that outcome. Whether there's a mechanism whereby we can set aside a fund where somebody's going to be maintaining the property or some use for the, once it's gone, it's gone. It's never going to come back. And that concerns me, just.
I just wanted to
in
address
general.
this particular issue though,
Okay.
not the general, because
Not
I think I'm reading this letter from Saskatchewan and it just doesn't seem to make sense with what we're being proposed here. I mean, it's saying that if we give this open space instead of the fee, there's gonna be one less subdivision lot. I don't believe it's true.
it's not.
And there was also, that this is a third of an acre, which is not true. And also, it's contiguous to the town open space, which it's hard for me to tell, but I don't believe it
It's
is.
it's just a long strip, right?
Just a long strip.
Well, I think it's contiguous to the school property, is that
I
not?
don't know, so it's the parents
I
of
don't
the.
see that really adds any
I-
value to the school.
It's really not
Unfortunately.
accessible or usable, and I'm not even sure it's because when I'm looking at the map here, I think it's maybe the Maplewood property rather than the.
That's
school property.
correct.
School nor is actually to the.
Yes, and can I jump in for a quick? So when we got these letters, we did not have this plan. I think they wanted us to revisit the concept of it. I got this on Monday and wanted to include it so you could see they do now have an offer. We don't have any details on it. But they did send that to the zoning department to show just this strip, it's adjacent to the Maplewood,
Right,
which has a conservation easement, not a public access easement. That's on the other side, close to Mill Hill Terrace. But it does have a conservation easement here, so it's undeveloped space, but it is not.
This area is also in a wetland setback, so I assume that any activity in there would also require a wetland permit, so
The subdivision will come as a,
Ponds back.
yeah, it's de facto protected, but these strip, in this strip, I'm not even sure, you couldn't even get to it from the cul-de-sac, I'm not sure if it could access, if access from anywhere. So I think it's just creating a.
Is that like a walkway?
strip. Yeah.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here for a second because I don't believe that open space only has value if it's usable. I think that there's a lot of arguments to be made for wildlife, pollinator pathway, buffers, noise buffers, visual buffers, certainly a buffer between school and development or commercial activity. So I don't think it has to be able to be used. Having said that, it actually is devalued when they're invasive species and when it becomes a place for people to dump or,
Right.
whatever, have other kinds of undesirable activity.
I agree with your assessment about the open space, but it doesn't have to be called open space in terms of a designation to be main
Right.
natural land.
Absolutely. And I think that there are, we see that the Audubon and Aspect, they have parcels that are preservation space, right? They're not even really meant for human use. They're more for our natural resources. So what I'm wondering is if Sasquatch wants this reconsidered, maybe they can be responsible for maintaining that open space and keeping the invasives out and having it be a nice border between the school and the development.
It's actually not between the school.
Yeah.
Between backyards.
It's the Maplewood senior living.
Right,
So
walked it.
But it's on
That's what I was.
the other side. It's still at the corner, so it doesn't actually,
Up here.
yeah.
Well, either way, I'm just throwing that out there. If it's important to them, then maybe it's important enough to them.
None of this has officially been proposed to TPZ yet, as the open spaces was, like I said, just submitted.
Yeah.
2 days ago.
I'm trying to figure out even why this is here. Because I gotta be honest with you, I was on TPZ when we approved the subdevelopment and when we approved Maplewood, so I'm trying to understand even why this, or now what they're thinking is.
Well, I think LAC was not happy with the decision.
8 years ago.
You know,
Well, now with this new subdivision, the recommendation,
yeah.
we would send a recommendation to TPZ, which we did. And they have not made their decision yet. The land acquisition has asked that you
So,
reconsider.
right, so, okay, but why,
I don't want to pay.
why do we have to reconsider, when all we're doing, both land acquisition and us, we're giving a recommendation to zoning, let's zoning, this one is a
Right.
50-50. What do you want to come up?
And it's not that they don't want to, the applicant wanted the fee in lieu of, so it wasn't that the applicant didn't want to pay.
Oh, I see.
It-
I see.
it's,
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Personally, I think that I'm looking at $90,000 as a potential to buy some good pieces of property, especially if we aggregate it. And in my opinion, the sum is better, is a bigger part of the pieces, because when you look at conservation biology, the more area that you can aggregate in one area, the more it's
Absolutely.
valuable for different species, and get these little areas. I just don't think, I wouldn't be in favor of it.
Maybe they want the space for each lot.
I'm interested to hear.
What's the one that didn't like?
the-
It's not the.
I'm definitely in favor of preserving as much open space as we possibly can. It's not an issue with that. I just think
Make it make sense.
isolated, like especially a strip like this is, I almost.
I value your experience and the benefit of your experience, but I also believe that usable space is usable by anything, not by human beings
Right.
necessarily.
I like
I
that.
think Commissioner Fain's saying that it'll still become usable space on its, because it won't be open space, it'll still be a wetland area that they wouldn't be able to do anything with.
Having said that, let me just say that we do have open space in this town that we watch over, that has no trails, no parking, the area adjacent to Binger Woods comes to mind. There's no way to access Binger Woods, and it's valuable open space. But I agree. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think that it needs to make sense, and I'd rather see that money.
Well, and that's the biggest issue. Pollinator pathway. Our problem is we've planted lots of pollinator gardens and there's no one to maintain them.
Right.
There's me, Mary and Amanda, and we're weeding every weekend because there's nobody else to weed. I mean, moving forward, when the scouts want to do an Eagle project, a pollinator pathway program, I want the scout troop to step up and agree to weed the pollinator garden moving forward. It's the maintenance issue that people have to take responsibility. If you're building an $8 million house, you can set aside, $10,000 to $20,000 in some sort of an easement to, or not an easement, but some sort of a fund to provide maintenance or elimination of invasive species, which we've brought on ourselves, as a society. I'll get off.
No. I think that's a fair point. I don't think you should hold back.
I spend my weekends.
Just so you know.
No, I know.
Open spaces and moving and like, moving invasives. That's what I do for fun. But, I just, I've seen so many of
The
these.
thing is absolutely true. The big issue is maintenance. All right, keeping the invasives out. How do you do that? It's I just saw something on Instagram, something behind a tractor with a laser beam that was
Zapping the weeds, yeah, I know.
lasering all of the weeds. brilliant, you know, because no chemicals, you know, with the goats that we're doing and the vinyl, the billboard vinyl, you know, we're trying to not use any chemicals in the open space, but you know, there's also a responsibility thing. There's a lot of people use the open space that do nothing to support them. They use them, but they don't support them. And if I see another bag of dog poop, I'm gonna get crazy. And like, whoever, and not to.
No, I was going to say
I was
that,
gonna propose actually a partnership.
look, I mean, I've been talking to Tim and remember over the last week, I mean, some of the open spaces, and I don't want to go too deep into this, you know, there's a proprietary thing going on Mill Hill. The homeowners have worn paths through the open space to their houses. The kids are using it as there's ramps, hold those. And Tom took care of one of actually the water course was obliterated that goes through there.
Really?
Because they had built ramps and stuff. So, you know me, I'm out there with a stupid camera, but Tom, I mean, the next time I went through there, he'd already done it.
Yeah, he got right on that.
But there is so much damage going on at Mill Hill. I think that's something we need to get into at some other point, but I'm just attaching onto what you're saying. Some of these open spaces are being used as playgrounds. I mean, I used to do that when I was a kid. We used to ride our bikes, but it was never disrespectful.
Right.
And some of the stuff that's going on,
I mean, it
Mill
broke,
Hill's the worst.
broke my heart with the fact that people were doing vandalism at Lake Mohegan.
Yeah.
What are we turning into? I mean, it boggles my mind.
So
Conversation for another.
Yeah, I know.
It's 845 Mill Hill Terrace.
Feel comfortable with the decision that.
Sorry
we
about
made.
that.
Yeah, so that's all that's before us right now is they are asking or they're requesting that we revisit and discuss the decision.
Revisited it, we
did revisit.
discussed.
We had other,
So we need to make a motion that we're.
I don't think we have to do anything.
It's a revisit. Okay.
Visit.
We don't have to,
We'll stick with our recommendation.
okay.
If you want, I'll just say that we had a discussion, we revisited it, we thought we had a conversation about what we did then, and new points came up now, but we're sticking with the decision we made then.
Right. And but it's planning and zoning. They decide.
Really, it'll be up for planning and zoning because they have to deal with two, I guess, conflicting recommendations. That's it. All right, we'll move on to Roman numeral. That's bill for communications. Recommendation to establish a mechanism of cross communication between the Conservation Commission and Land Acquisition Commission. Okay, so that's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tim has suggested that, so Land Acquisition Commission meets quarterly. He wanted to recommend having a member of the Conservation Commission attend one of their meetings since.
I got a better idea. They meet quarterly. Let them come to one of ours because we meet twice a month. Am I right?
Yeah.
But this can be tabled until Tim is here. to
Yeah,
explain.
let's table it, but, at the same time, it's communication. Nobody goes, just pick one first. Whenever there's.
They provide the string and one of the soup cans.
Yeah, one or
the other.
You know what I'd like to say though, is that in fairness, it's not easy to get, this is a call for respect to them, but there's really very little online. There's no access to their minutes. They had a meeting in May that they're referencing, they sound frustrated, but there's no record of that online. There's no tapes. That's frustrating. You can't find anything. And I went to look.
And what's
I
the,
can't learn what their interests are because.
what's the reason?
So I think he was hoping if a representative went, then we would learn more because most of the open space does fall under our purview. Some of it is private when they do these subdivisions,
Let me
but
ask you this, when they do something like that, there's a decision, do they send any communication to us? Or to you guys, to the office?
Tim probably gets it. I don't know for sure. I know planning and zoning would
There's
get it.
clearly a need for better communication.
Yeah, let's just table this until
Yeah.
Tim's around to talk about it, because maybe that, it's just solved by way of, if they make a decision, they can email their agenda or something, or,
Yeah.
their minutes afterwards, that'd be
They'll
helpful.
invite us to sit
And we'll
in.
be happy to do the same to them, if they have a secretary or somebody that was the wrong one. So, okay. Tabled. Roman numeral 7, legal enforcement actions. Number 1, 176 Village Lane Southport encroachment, corrective action in progress. Yes. What, anybody here for that? Nope.
No, I do know, Mike Paterla from the Huntington Company was working on a plan to address this. So they are,
Okay, so somebody's working. Okay, and then the second one is 918 Fairfield Beach Road encroachment, corrective action in progress. Yes, is that? No?
Tom Course went out there and said everything has been removed. They had to take down the patio and a fence, and that should be all set now.
Okay, very good. Staff reports. Number 1, report from the Conservation Department. Submitted a grant application for pollinator seeds, pollinator partnership and Toyota Motors North America for meadow restoration at Woodlands Hill Open Space. Is that us, you, or?
That, I think that's just informational, just to
Okay.
update you on that.
Is that something that you know about? You're a pollinator.
I'm aware of it, it's just for seeding for putting some additional, yeah.
Okay. That gets us to other, but sir, are you here for anything that we may have? Okay, oh, very good, okay.
The work,
Thanks for participating.
nothing good on TV or?
The work crew is out there.
The work crews out there.
I've seen their work at several. They're doing a lot of trail
Great.
clearing.
I'm
Very
posting your-
visible.
I'm posting your pictures on Instagram. On later pathway.
Thank you. Anybody open to any other, anything you want to discuss? Nope. No, in that case, we're adjourned.